Okay, welcome guys to another lecture, another Python lecture, and this week we're looking at OOP. So today is day 2 of OOP, right? So yesterday we talked about classes, methods, and the constructor and attributes. So for today, I want us to look at another OOP concept, right? And this concept is called encapsulation, right? So we're going to look at encapsulation and validation. Called encapsulation and validation, right? So yesterday we learned that a class is just like what? It's just like a blueprint, and from a class we can create objects, and an object contains data which we call attributes, right? And actions which we call methods, right? So today I want us to look at encapsulation, right? So the first word that we need to understand is encapsulation. So what encapsulation means? Encapsulation, right? What encapsulation means is that it means that keeping data and the keeping data and the methods that control data together, right? Together inside a class, right? So encapsulation just means keeping data and the methods that control data together in a class, right? It also means controlling how certain data can be changed. Instead of allowing any part of our program to change important information however it wants, the class decides what changes are allowed, right? So with encapsulation, right, in encapsulation encapsulation, right, it's also we can also say it's what protecting and controlling an object's data, right? You can say it's what protecting and controlling an object's data, right? Imagine a bank account. If your balance is $500, we should not allow another part of the program to simply say balance equals to negative 1 million, right? Normally the bank account class should control how money enters and leaves the account, right? So now right. So for example, let's say we have a class called expense, right? So in this class we have our constructor in it, right? Self name amount, right? Self dot name equals to name, right? Self dot amount equals to amount, right? So if we say expense, right, equals to expense, and let's say internet, right? Let's say internet, and let's say it's what $60, right? And we let's say print expense dot amount, right? At the moment amount is a normal attribute, and we can access it directly, right? So then if I say, for example, expense dot amount equals to negative 1000, right? Negative is equals to negative 1000, right? And then if I say print expense dot amount, right? Now saving the code. If you look at my terminal, right, see, the first one is printed at 60 and the second one is printed at 1000, right? So here the first print statement is printed 60, right? Because we said the amount is what is $60, right? And the second one is printed negative 1000 because here we said expense dot amount is equals to 1000. So that means that we directly changed the amount into 1000 from the one that we created 60, right? So right, Python allows this, so it works. You can easily change what an attribute's value just like this. This works, it's fine, right? But there are a lot of reasons why this doesn't work in production systems. There are a lot of reasons why this could go wrong, right? For example, the system will allow things like negative expenses, incorrect totals, corrupted reports, incorrect financial information, right? So instead of allowing uncontrolled changes, we can create rules, right? We can create rules to control the changes, right? Let me clear my terminal. Let me comment this out. There we go, right? Right. So how we control these changes? We can use what a getter method, right? We use things that we call what getter methods, right? We have what getter methods and setter methods, right? So a getter method allows you to get an object certain value, and the setter method allows you to set an object to set a value to an object, right? Right. So what? Right. So a getter, right? Okay, let me just comment this out, right? Right. So a getter method, right? Okay, let me say getter method. Yeah, okay. So a getter method, right, is just something that allows us to retrieve or read a value from an object, right? This is what a getter method does, right? For example, we're going to use this same class again. Let's just say class, right? Let's call it expense one, right? Then inside here we're going to create what our getter method. You can say def get what amount, get amount self, right? Return self dot amount, right? So we can then say, let me copy that, let me paste it, expense one, right? Can then say, let us say this one is groceries and it's $150 a month, right? print expense dot get amount. Right. So here we have what get amount. So this is just a getter a getter method. So a getter method is just something that allows us to retrieve or read a value. Right here we want to get the the amount of whatever is for our expense class, right? So we use we create a getter method def get amount, and only going to take self as a parameter, right? So the name of your method, you can call it whatever you want, but I advise you guys to use what get at the beginning so that you can know that this is what a getter method. That getter method, right? Right. So then inside the getter method, we just use the return keyword, return self dot amount. Remember that yesterday we talked about the self keyword, that it just refers to the current object, right? So when we say return self dot amount, that means that we're just returning the amount of the current object. If you want to get the user's name, you can if you want to get the expense name, you can just say return self dot name, and it works, right? So even if you say print expense dot amount, right, it's going to print the correct amount, but this is its limitations. It can be modified, etc. You can get false values, right? So this is why we use a getter method. So it's important to get to create a getter method when you want to get an object's value, right? So you can just print using the getter method, right? Okay, let's just say method print function, right? Then we have what you call a setter method. Let me comment this out, right? You also have what you call a setter method. Let me say setter method, right? So with the setter method, that is a method. A setter method is a method that allows you to change the value of an object, right? So a setter method is a method that allows you to change the value of an object, right? So here we have get amount, right? So we can create another method. We're going to call this one def set. Let's use the name this time self, right? And then we're going to say self dot name equals to okay. We need to take another parameter that we're going to pass, right? And let's call it let's say it's new name, right? Self dot name equals to new name. There we go. Right. So we need to return it. Oh, yeah, okay. So right. So this is our setter method, right? So if we say expense, right? Okay, let's create another getter method just to get the name. Just want to confirm something. get get underscore name self dot name. There we go. Right, so you need to say print expense dot get name. Right, so here I can say expense dot set name. Right, let's say fuel. Right, to verify something. There we go. Yeah, so it works. Right, so when you create your setter method, you write the name of your function of your method. It can be whatever you want. Then it's going to take what this self as a parameter and the value that you're going to use within your method, right? And then you just say self.name equals to new name. That means that this is what the when we create our object, we name it as groceries. But when you now want to change this object's value, we can use what a setter method. Right, we can use what a setter method. Right, so we can just call what the set name method, and then we just pass what the new name, like what I did on line 68. Expense dot set underscore name, open your brackets, fuel, which means that this is what the new name. Right, so this is just what a getter method and a setter method are supposed to do. Right, so you can also add validation to a setter method. Right, for example, let's create another setter method. Right, okay, let me call this one setter method. Right, so let's create another setter method. I'll call it def set amount. Right, self dot amount is equals to value. Right, is equals to value. Right, so this is a setter method, but now this setter method, it doesn't have what any validation. We need to so which means even if you say the new amount is equals to minus 1000, it's going to work. Right, so we need to add validation so that whenever the user calls the setter method and whatever value is going to insert in the setter method, we use the correct required value by our code. Right, so we can just say in this setter method, we can just say if our value is less than or equals to 0, right, raise a value error. Right, value must be greater than 0. Right, then that's when we can say now self dot amount equals to value. Right, let me comment this out. Right, then then here if I say expense dot set amount, right, minus 1000. Right, now going to run the code. See, we got a value error. Value must be greater than 0. This is the error that we added here. Value must be greater than 0. Right, if I now change it from -1,000 to a +1,000, run the code, we don't get any errors. So this is how you validate your setter method to make sure that the value that's going to be passed as a setter method is actually the correct value, right? So with the first method that I had shown you guys, you can validate it, so which means the user can pass any type of data they want. So now with this method, the user only passes what the type of data that you want, what the correct data. Right. So this is just what a setter method is supposed to do, what a getter method is supposed to do, and what validation is supposed to do. Right. So with our task here, right, we have what title, description, priority, and completed equals to false. Right. So I want us to continue it from yesterday. Right. I want us to continue from yesterday and add something else. Right. I want us to add what a getter method and a setter method. Right. So I'm just going to cancel this. Okay. Right. I'm just going to add the getter method def get, let's say, a title, right, self, right. So it's going to return self dot title, right. And then I want to create another method to set the title. So it's going to take self new underscore title, right, return self dot title equals to new title, right. So we created what a getter method and a setter method for today's lesson, right? Right. So this is just what the ins and outs of what a setter method and a getter method is supposed to do. So any questions about the setter method and the getter method?
There is no question, sir. I was actually following and understanding everything you were saying, but I just want to know something on getters and setters. I remember in Java, when we were doing these getters and setters, they were talking about accessing something which is private. So I don't know in Python classes so that we can access it from a method which is outside that class. I don't know. I just want an enlightenment on there.
And it is there also in Python, but now the difference is that for now we're still using we're still in one file. So on Thursday, is it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday or Friday, we're now going to split our code into multiple files, and then we're going to access them from different files.
Okay, I get it. So I'll wait for that time to come so that I can understand.
Okay, that's fine. So any question?
Everything was clear.
Yeah.
I understand everything.
Okay, great. So then